Hello everybody, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly episode number 103, on, what's today? February the 23rd, 2021. We're starting to run out of month, aren't we? Maybe not such a bad thing right now. Okay, so today I've got some things to show you. Of course, I've got a featured quilt from one of my viewers, and I have some shout outs, and I have a review of a local fabric store, and I've got a critical critique of one of my past quilts. So let's get right into things. Behind me, you've seen this one before. It's been there forever, it seems. That's the backing to my Aussie quilt. Now, after I do this vlog today, I am going to set up my table so I can layer this quilt with the backing and the batting and the whole bit. And then I'm going to start the process of quilting it. Probably start quilting it tomorrow, because usually when I start to layer a quilt, it takes me a couple of hours. And I get, tired of it. So the next day it'll be the quilting, and I'm not sure how I'm going to quilt it yet, but I have a sketching program on my iPad where you can take a picture of your quilt and then you can sort of draw over top of it some ideas for quilting, and if you don't like something you can erase it and do it again, start over. I don't know, I haven't really used that before, but I saw it on a YouTube video. I forget the name of the YouTube channel I saw it on, but this lady, she uses it quite successfully. So I thought I might do that, because the Aussie quilt's going to take some planning because of all the applique. But anyways, that's my plan. We'll see what happens. Let's have some coffee and then move on. So I do have, though, a sewing project to show you. These are placemats that I've been working on. They are supposed to be going to Meals on Wheels by way of my guild. Having some problems with my guild right now. Well, not so much the guild as with one individual on the guild, but I'm going to come to that in a few moments. And if you saw Stephen and Walter live on the weekend, on Sunday, I talked about the situation extensively. I talked about it in another form yesterday on my vlog. Maybe it's becoming an old record that's on repeat. I don't know. But anyways, we'll see. So I made these placemats, and here's the first four. I've made 8 in total. First 4 are this design, and now each placemat, although they use the same fabrics, the color placement is slightly different, which is hard with the way I'm rapidly going through these for you to see. But the reason that is because I used a pattern. Can't remember the name of the pattern right now. I think it was just flip and fold or something. And basically, I've done this one before. I like this pattern because you can knock off 4 placemats in no time at all. And basically, you use 4 fat quarters for the top of your placemats. And you just lay them all out, press them, lay them out, square them up, and then you cut them. And then you take and you move. It tells you in the pattern, like you move the top layer of section 1 that you've cut down to the bottom, then one over here and one over there. And basically it's like a deck of cards. You're shuffling them up, and then you cut them again, shuffle them again, and then you put all the pieces together and you have 4 different quilts. And I kind of like the idea. It's fast, it's quick. Now I backed them, and let's see, I used 2 different backings. This is the backing on 2 of them. And again, I just made these backings from fat quarters. I kind of collect fat quarters, and then I've got all these fat quarters and I know what to do with them. And this one's just a plain blue. Now, if you look closely, you can see how I quilted this. It's in goldy yellow. And I did it on the embroidery machine. It's there in the center. I don't know if it's showing up. Might show up better on the back. See the design? I just quilted it sort of in the middle part of the placemat. Then I got thinking about it afterwards. That's the part of the placemat no one really sees because there's a plate on top of it. But I wasn't in the mood to do, a lot of extensive quilting on it. They are for charity after all. And yeah, I could have practiced my free motion quilting on them, but yeah, I didn't. You know how I feel about free motion quilting. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I love to hate it. Now, I made another set. These ones were not difficult, but I found putting them together a little tedious because you used a jelly roll, basically, and you cut the jelly roll into these 5-inch by 2.5-inch pieces. Then you had to draw a line, stitch them across to get this pattern going back and forth. And it is not difficult, but you can get screwed up, especially if you're geometrically challenged like I am. And I did screw up a couple of times and had to do some ripping out. But I got 4 of these done. And again, the backings were just some fat quarters that I cut down. And I think each one's a little different. I think they're all K-facet fat quarters. They're really pretty. So in a sense, these placemats are reversible. So that's okay. The other ones too could be reversible as well, although the backing on those isn't quite as exciting as the backing on these ones. And I thought they were a fairly modern style, so I did some quilting. Actually, quilting on my embroidery machine again, these very contemporary looking triangles. Now I know I was told once that the rule, and really in quilting there aren't any rules because there aren't any quilting police, that if you have something that has straight lines in your fabric predominantly, then when you quilt it you should use some curvy lines. Well, I didn't. I used more straight lines, but I used the triangles because I thought that design kind of goes with, you know, how these are sort of half triangles or points or whatever. Again, I did it in the center of the quilt because, or in the center of the placemat. The reason being is, in order to get edge-to-edge quilting on something like these placemats, I shouldn't have sewn down and did my top stitching of my batting and everything of my layers. What I mean to say is I should have cut the backing and the batting much larger than the placemat size itself so that I'd have something to hoop. And then I could cut it down afterwards. And I could have done it that way, but I didn't. Because it didn't come to my mind until after I finished these. But, you know, again, these are just placemats for charity, and I'm sure they'll be fine. So I've got 8 of them to donate. Maybe. Coming to that. Okay. So, well, let's get right into it now, shall we? Let's. I'm not going to keep you in suspense anymore about the whole quilt thing. Or guild thing. You know, you've probably heard about this. If you checked out Stephen and Walter Live and you checked out my vlog, then you know what I'm going to say. So I'm going to keep it relatively short. I'm having a fight with the president of the guild. She's a bitch. I'm sorry, but I said it, but she is. Basically, she objected to the fact that I sent out an email to all the membership in my guild about the Idiot Quilter Retreat. I sent that out because I want them to have an opportunity to partake of it if they so wished. You know, it's been a difficult year with COVID. We've been meeting virtually. Usually we have 2 retreats in a year, physical retreats. We can't do that in this past year. There are sew days. One of our members is heading those up, and she's done a brilliant job of it all, and I've enjoyed those sew days. But, you know, those are sew days. Those are not a retreat. So when I was thinking of offering this retreat, I thought of the guild, because our president says we should be doing, as members of the executive, you know, I'm the secretary, or was the secretary, that we should be thinking of and planning opportunities to assist our guild members during this very isolating and horrible time. Of course, the guild, the executive, has not come up with an idea for a retreat. They've just been relying upon sew days, which are basically 3 or 4 hours long. Some of them have lasted a little longer than that. And that's fine. That's one thing. But that went through my mind when I was planning the retreat. And so I thought, hey, yeah, I'll send it out in an email, because as a member, we all have access to all the other members' email accounts, and we'll send it out. So I did. She didn't like it because, as far as she was concerned, I was basically doing this for my own personal financial gain. I wasn't. It's free. She didn't like the fact that I had a corporate sponsor. Well, she has a thing against that particular sponsor anyways. So, basically, I told her she was very rude, to say the least, and insulting in her remarks to me. I asked for an apology, and then I put these 2 words in, or I will resign. I think that's 4 words. Whatever. She took that as a submission to my resignation. It was not. So, anyways, what I have decided to do is I am resigning. Okay, I can't work with that person at all. And to be quite honest, I have not enjoyed my time on the executive. I got voluntold, as they call it now, where they volunteer you for it. And at the time, I thought, okay, I want to be more involved in the guild, so yeah, I'll go for it. I've done a really good job. I say that myself, because heaven forbid you should get a compliment from anybody on the executive in the guild. That won't happen anytime soon. But I've done this kind of job before over the years and many different organizations. I know what I'm doing as a secretary. I am an organized person. That is one of my strengths. Okay? I know that. I'm very, very organized. I mean, after all, I have a label maker, for God's sakes. Have label maker. That keeps you organized. I label everything. But I'm very organized. And yeah. And if I'm in a position of responsibility, I take my responsibilities very seriously. And I give all I've got to it. No matter what. No matter what, I do. I'm just that kind of person, okay? But anyways, I have made the firm decision that I'm resigning. I have my official resignation letter, although don't really need it because they're having an executive meeting tomorrow night. By now I would have gotten the agenda for that and the link, because it's done by Zoom, and I haven't got it. So it means that as far as the president is concerned, I have officially resigned, which the issue I have there is she can't make those decisions on her own. It's an executive decision. She is not the entire executive. So, basically, she never consulted with me. She didn't want to discuss it. She just decided she didn't like what I was doing. Well, that's okay. And I have made the decision. I pondered this yesterday on the vlog, but with the help of people very kindly giving me advice, and I take everything they said very seriously and contemplate it all. And I am going to be sending out a message to the entire guild membership in a very professional manner, stating exactly why I'm no longer secretary. Because I don't want rumors running rampant. I have no idea what this woman will tell the membership, but I know it won't be good, and it'll be very biased, because that's just the way she is. Like I said, she's a bitch. So that's what I'm going to do. And next week maybe I'll talk just a little bit more, let you know how I word it, what I'm going to send out to them and things like that. Anyways, those are my issues, and this is why I'll come back to the placemats now. I don't really want to have much to do with the guild anymore. I'm still a member. I'm just not on the executive. And I'm kind of done with them, I think. There's some really, really, really nice ladies in the guild. None of them are on the executive. And there are some really nice ones on the executive too. There's a couple on there that are a bit control freaks, but the biggest problem is the one that's the president right now. So anyways, yeah, thanks for listening. Okay, let's move on. So I told you my next project is, of course, to get that sucker done. I got to get it out of my hair. And let's move on. So I got something to show you that I made with my 3D printer. I made a giant thimble. Okay, this is what happens when you put your 3D printer on steroids. Now, this design was never intended to be an actual thimble. It's just the design of it. And whoever designed it, I got it from something called Thingiverse. Thingiverse is where you get all kinds of 3D models that people share that they've made. And so this person designed this to be a flower pot, basically. And it's very nice. I like it. It took like a day and a half, 2 days to print, but it's really nice. But I didn't intend to print a flower pot. I intended to print something that I could use as a pin cushion. So about a quarter of this size, or maybe smaller than that. And I thought I had placed the dimensions into the program that you use that resizes these things so they can be printed on the 3D printer. And I guess I didn't. And I knew that as soon as I saw it, starting with the first layers of this, that this was going to be huge. But I thought, what the heck? Let's let the whole thing go and see what will happen. Because really, this was basically a test of the limits of my 3D printer. And it printed out beautifully. So I showed this on Stephen Walter Live and I think some people, I asked, you know, what can you do with it? Well, some people said, well, you could use it as a little waste paper basket. True, you could. This would be great in a bathroom. Okay, you could print it in any color you want. But I've got lots of waste paper baskets. I don't need any more. Then somebody suggested I use it to hold my scraps as I'm working on a project, and that's what I'm doing. Just throwing the scraps in here as they come off, the large ones, and I'll sort them out after the project's done, that kind of thing. So that's okay. So that's what I use it for. But this is what I really wanted. A cute little pin cushion. These have my magic pins in it, and I love it. I think it's great. Now this one I printed out of something called rainbow filament, but it doesn't look very rainbowy. You can see it's sort of a gradual gradation, but yeah, I find that with that, oh, there's strings on this. I find with that kind of filament, you don't get, unless it's a huge project sort of like this, you really don't notice the changes in the colors. I like this so much I made another one. So I have my magic pins, I have my regular pins. And you know, I'm thinking that I might make some of these and save them to give them as gifts to people because I think they're really cute. So again, I'm trying to blend the world of 3D printing with my world of quilting and sewing. Okay, so that's what I want to show you there. So that takes us to Subscriber's Quilt of the Week. Now, this lady, who I like to call a friend because even though we've never met physically, she's been a regular subscriber to all my channels, and she's been at my craft and chats as well, and I know her as Jeannie. Her name is Jean Eubanks. She did submit a couple of her quilts earlier in this series that I'm doing, and she has another one here, which I think is really interesting because this is basically an art type of quilt, and you'll see what I mean if you watch this. So I'm going to insert the video that I made about this right now, right here. This week's Quilter of the Week is Jean Eubanks, who is a regular viewer of the Idiot Quilter and Stephen and Walter Live, and someone that I'm starting to call a friend, even though we've never really actually physically met. But Jeannie sends me in a couple of pictures, and this is interesting because the first picture, she says, is a page from a book her cousin gave her. It's an aerial view of a part of the city in Brazil, and that picture, she says, inspired the picture of the quilt that's here. She said, I finished the quilt and sent it to my cousin. I used a panel of London and blenders from my stash. And that's really interesting and just a fine example of what can inspire you to make your own original art quilts, because this is an art quilt. I've never tried to put a quilt together from a picture, but I think I should give it a go. And I think in this example, Jeannie has really captured the atmosphere, the flavor of that picture that her cousin sent her. So well done, Jeannie. Very, very beautiful piece of art. So I really appreciate Jeannie sending those pictures to me, and I have only one more submission, and that'll be next week. But I would like to continue this. So please, please send me pictures and a little brief blurb about your quilt. It doesn't have to be a quilt. It could be a placemat. It could be a table runner. It could be Christmas themed. It could be anything that you have created. In fact, I'll even go out on the limb here and say it doesn't even necessarily have to be quilting. It's a craft, as quilting is. Actually, this is an art. All crafting is art, no matter what form it takes. So whatever you have in textiles, even in paper crafting, send me a couple of pictures or a picture, a little blurb describing it, and I'm going to feature you. So don't be shy, because these are inspirational. They really are. And I love seeing your pictures, and that's why I want to share them here. Okay, so, and in order to do that, down in my, on the show notes, there's my contact information. My email address is there, and it's always there. I didn't used to post it, but now I do. Okay, so there are some other shout outs that you will also find in the show notes. One of them is to my favorite local quilting store, Ultimate Sewing. You've heard me talk about them before, but today I'm actually going to review them in a little bit more detail. I have a link to the Chatterbox Quilts membership site, The Quilter's Way. I think this week she is taking new members, but I think she's only doing that up to the 28th of February, which is this Sunday. So if you're interested in joining it, and believe me, it is it's very inexpensive to join. The monthly fee is very inexpensive, and it's well worth it. Well worth it. I enjoy being a member of it. I've been a member since Kim started it, and I enjoyed the Zooms that we do. I enjoy her. I've learned a lot. There's tons of tutorials. We're very professionally done on the site as well for members. It's just a wealth of information, and the people who belong to this, and there's quite a few of us, if you're having a problem or you have a question, you just put it in the forum and you're going to get an answer. In fact, you're going to get a lot of answers. Very friendly group of people. I enjoy it greatly. So check it out. There's a link for checking it out in the show notes. And on Sunday, on Stephen and Walter Live, Walter showed his latest experiments with mask making. He's made them in the past, but he's looking for, the ultimate design. And he's found a couple that seem to work very well. And people asked, where he got the patterns for these. And at that point, he didn't really have it handy to tell people what sites they were. But he gave me the list afterwards, and I have posted those in the show notes as well. And there's the free pattern, and I believe there's a template, and also there is a YouTube video that goes along with it. So if you're looking for a new mask design that's very, very good, you might want to check those links out. Okay, so I did some shopping. Of course you did. Well, we've been in lockdown for, ever. Our provincial government has decided to lighten up in our area, not all areas across the province, but in our area, lighten up the restrictions. And so that means that some of the non-essential stores can now have, by appointment, people come in and do some shopping, and all the protocols are still in place for safety and that kind of thing. So I immediately got on the blower to Ultimate Sewing, made an hour and a half's reservation, and went in and shopped until I dropped. And yeah, I wanted to do this for many reasons. One, I love to shop, as if that's a surprise, when it comes to quilting supplies and things like that, of course. And I want to support my local quilt store because they've supported me. So this is my way of giving back to them by spending a bundle. And I did. I dropped about $700. However, Walter dropped more. He dropped over $1,500 because he bought himself a new sewing machine. He bought a new serger. And so now he's got, it's an Elna, which basically are made by Janome, and they're carried by Ultimate Sewing. But it wasn't the one that he had his eye on. The one he had his eye on was a little cheaper model, less expensive model, not cheaper, just less expensive, had less features on it than the one he ended up buying. But Shirley at Ultimate Sewing said she wasn't going to carry those machines anymore, that particular one, because she says there's problems with the way it sews. And Shirley's very particular, which is a nice thing to know. She will not carry a machine in her store, a model of a machine in her store, if she herself is not satisfied that it is going to work the way it's supposed to work. So Walter instead bought what is the equivalent to my serger, which is the Janome air threader. His is an air threader as well. It's just not the Janome one, but it looks exactly the same. It works exactly the same. So anyways, I thought rather than trying to hold up things here and show them to you, I would do a little video insert of my haul from Ultimate Sewing. So I'm going to show that to you right now. So our government here in Ontario has lifted in some places slightly the lockdown restrictions. So we can now go to certain stores, but most of them by appointment only a few in the store, wearing your masks, all that kind of stuff, social distancing. So of course my local quilt store, Ultimate Sewing, was open, and I called them up and made an appointment for Walter and I intended to spend money. I want to support my mom and pop stores. I especially want to support my quilting store. And on top of it all, I just like to shop. It was nice instead of shopping online for a change. So I kind of went to town on this, and I'm going to show you what I got, what my Ultimate Sewing haul was. And I'm going to start here with this Janome quilting kit. Now, when I went into the store, I almost forgot to ask about it. I wanted an extended table, which you see right here, for my Skyline S7 machine. I don't know if you remember or not, I think I mentioned in one of my past videos that while my main machine, the 14,000, was out for a spa week, I was using this machine a little bit more, and what I found kind of annoying was I didn't have an extended table. So I used the extended table that came with my 100, which used to be my little travel machine. You can see it peeking out over there in the corner. And it sort of fit, but not really. There were gaps and everything because it wasn't meant for this particular machine. I went online and looked for tables because I figured a Janome one would be very expensive, and I didn't know whether or not how long it might take to get, because I figured I'd probably have to order it. The ones I saw online ranged in price from $250 to about $289. So I thought, I can live without it, because this machine I don't use all the time. I bought this one more or less to travel with when I go to classes. Well, that hasn't happened lately, has it? But anyways, I kind of wanted one. So while I was in Ultimate Sewing, I asked Shirley, assuming I'd have to order it, and I said to her, I want an extended table for the Skyline S7. I suppose you'll have to order it. And she went, no, I've got one in stock. I went, oh, okay. Then I figured, oh yeah, but it's going to be like $250 or whatever. I said, how much? She said, $150. I said, wow, that's cheap. And she says, well, you bought the machine, so it goes with the machine. And that's one thing I like about Ultimate Sewing. They don't rip you off. She could have very easily have just said, and on the box itself, it was marked as $249. But because I bought the machine there, I got it for a reduced price, which I think is great service. So it's actually, I didn't realize, it came as what they call the quilting kit. And if you look at this, it says the kit contains an applique foot AP, already have it, convertible free motion quilting foot set, got it, Clearview quilting foot OV, got it, ditch quilting foot S, I have one, but that's for my 14 or 15,000, but it will work on the Skyline as well. Extra wide table, which is what I wanted. An open toe satin stitch foot F2, got it. Jumpstart project guide and tips. Okay, so just the instructions. So I looked at all those extra things, even though with the exception of maybe one of those I didn't have. It came with the table, and I was most interested in having the table. So bonus, I got extra feet as well. So I was really happy to get this, and it fits right here in my spot very nicely. And so when I'm quilting on this machine, I can be sewing on this machine with a little bit more ease. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the fabric haul. Okay, so I'm going to show you the fabric haul that I bought at Ultimate Sewing the other day as well. And I've had my eye on one of these packs for a while, and so I decided that yesterday was the day to pick it up, and I did. Now this is Tim Holtz fabric, and these are fat quarters, and I believe there are 14 fat quarters in here, and it's the eclectic elements he calls it, but this actually, the fabric line that's in here are two fabric lines of his. The Abandoned, which I've shown you before, and here's one of them right on the very top. I'm not taking this thing off, sorry. I'm just not. I think it's pretty, it's like that. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, so I'm leaving it all nicely bundled up here. But anyways, you've seen the Abandoned line because I've bought it before and I've shown it to you. But there's also another line in here called Provisions. And I think that might be like this purpley colored one and this bluey colored one and probably some of these and this orangey one and that kind of thing. But there are 14 fat quarters in here, so that's a fair amount. And you might wonder how much I paid for it. I paid $80 for it. But because I bought it at Ultimate Sewing and because I bought a sewing machine, I've bought a lot of sewing machines there, and so have Walter. But the one thing that Shirley does is on everything you buy, most things, including fabric and notions and things, you will get 10% off. So I got 10% off of this, so instead of $80 it cost me $72, and that's not bad at all, I didn't think. And it's very pretty and I really like it. So now I did buy some other fabrics, so I looked through my stash of fabrics and kind of looking at what colors I don't have, and so reds, oranges, and yellows are something I'm a bit low on. Now I have to admit that orange and yellow, I don't mind them in small quantities, but I wouldn't do a whole quilt using those colors. But I saw this and I thought, this is kind of nice because it's got the orange and dark and light, and there's a bit of a print with it, sort of a florally leaf kind of pattern. So I bought 2 meters of that, and when I buy fabrics, except for wide back fabrics, I always usually buy at least 2 meters. I also bought 2 meters of this red. Again, this is one, it'd be a good blender or background kind of thing. And then I went for a few more exotic ones. Of course, you know I can't stay away from the blues and the purples and the teals. So I saw this and I thought this was nice. And who's this by? This is a Northcott one by Deborah Edwards. And I'm not sure. Oh, it's called Eclipse, which I think I've had some of this, but in a different colorway before. And I really like it. This is a Tim Holtz fabric. Yes, it is dark, but I really like the print. This would make a nice shirt. I think it would make a nice shirt. Walter said it would make a nice shirt. I don't know if he bought any of it, though. I don't think he did. And I think this is from the Abandoned line. Yes. And this is one that I saw online when I was buying some of the Abandoned line from Peachtree Quilts in Regina. And I didn't bother to order this. It looked a lot darker online. And that's one of the things about buying fabric online. Sometimes what you see online is not as close as you would hope in what it would look like in real life. So when I saw this in real life, I had to have it. So those were some of the standard fabrics, the 2 meter ones that I bought, but then I needed some wide back too. I probably have more than enough wide back fabric in my collection to do my UFOs, but I wanted to make sure. And when I buy wide back fabric, I know this is probably the backwards way of doing it, but I don't usually buy my background fabric or my backing fabric when I've got the quilt done and look at the colors on the front and decide this is what I'm going to use, I usually go in and I'll buy it and then figure out which one I'm going to use it on. So of course I lean towards things that in my mind they're not neutral in color, but they don't have a real definite pattern to them. Like this is a little bit more gradient. Well, it is a gradient. And I've had actually this line of fabric before. This is Northcott. I think it's Northcott. And I'm pretty sure it's Northcott. And I think they call it the graduations or something like gradations. Not graduations, gradations. But I do like that. And I have used this as backing in some other projects as well in the past. So I got that. And I buy 3 meters of these when I do. Again, this is another one by Northcott. And I've used it before. Again, it's got that, you know, kind of mottled look to it, which to me is sort of a neutral. Well, it's sort of a gradient as well. And I bought this, and I just realized something. I'm so stupid. I didn't feel it when I saw it. That's why it cost me more too. It's flannel. It's flannel. Shoot. Well, not that it'll come amiss. It's just that I've shied away from flannel. But I don't know why. I could use this. Oh, so maybe this was a fortunate mistake. Because it's not really a mistake. That's not what I mean. But, you know, I guess it'll work okay. I mean, break outside of the box. Try something new. Yeah. And then I bought, well, it's not a whole bolt, but pretty close. And this is just what a tone-on-tone white. I like to have this kind of thing around because I'll often use it as background on quilts I'm making. Because it's kind of neutral. It, you know, it's a light, so, you know, it gives a place for your eye to rest on a very busy quilt. So I got this. I think there was 7.5 meters left on this. So I've got that in my supplies as well. And so that's all that I bought. And you might be thinking, okay, how much was all of this? Well, it was just over $500. Wide back fabric tends to run about $20 a meter, except for the flannel. I think it was about $30 a meter, which I didn't realize at the time I bought, but I have it now. You know how much I paid for the Tim Holtz bundle, and these, and Shirley's prices are so good. Most of her fabric, or cotton fabric, is $15 a meter. And of course I got 2, 4, 6, 8 meters of that. You do the math. Of course I bought the quilting kit as well and that. So yeah, I think I paid her salaries, the salaries for her employees that day for a while. But that's okay. Now, she did well that day in the store, and I don't regret a cent. And you might be saying, wow, holy crap, you must be rich. No, I'm going to let you in a little secret on how I can afford to buy these things without going into debt. During COVID, I have been saving money. I do a weekly budget of my funds. I am a pensioner. I'm on a fixed income. And so I carefully budget my money. And I add to my little, what I call, fabric buying fund. I've been doing this since COVID started and we started to get into lockdowns and things, because I figured, okay, I'm not going to be able to get to Ultimate Sewing to get what I want. You know, kind of a thing. I may have to order online, and that was before Shirley had her online store and everything like that. And I know that other places charge a lot more money for their fabric than Shirley does. And I wanted to support Shirley. So I figured, it was in the back of my mind, I'm going to save up this money, and when we can go back and in-store and shop, I'm dropping a bundle to support her, to support my habit, all of that. So yeah, I don't go into hawk. This money was already earmarked for that in my little fund. So benefit of budgeting. Walter also bought some things. He bought some fabric, of course, to make some more shirts and other projects he's working on. But he's been itching to buy a new serger. Now, he's been using his sister's 30-year-old serger, and it's the one that I learned how to use and hated it and bought the air thread. He didn't want the Janome air thread, though. For his purposes, he had his eye on a different one, which was a little cheaper model, but I believed it had a free arm on it. And he spoke to Shirley about it, and Shirley said that it was a horrible machine. It didn't sew right. She didn't know why, but she wasn't going to stock them anymore. And that's another thing that's great about Ultimate Sewing, is the fact that Shirley won't sell you something if she doesn't believe in it. So he ended up getting, for a good price, he got the equivalent air thread, but it's an Elna machine. And Elna, I think, is made by Janome anyways these days. But he's got it. He hasn't taken it out of the box yet, but he's going to. And, well, that was another machine. So he dropped about, by the time he was done that day, about $1,500 in there. So, yeah, it was a good day for business, I would say. But, you know, it's worth every penny. So I thought I'd show you that. So, you may gasp at how much money we spent at Ultimate Sewing. And rightly so. Like I said, I spent $700 there and change. I'm not a rich person. I am a pensioner. Okay, I have a fixed income. My pension's good. It's not that good. But how do I afford all these things? And I'm always showing you things that I have bought. No, I am not in hock. Just to let you know, I budget. I always have budgeted. I set aside every week in my budget a certain amount of dollars that I put into what I call my fabric fund. And since COVID, and since I've been able to save money during COVID, and I think a lot of people have, because, you know, a lot of things that we do on a daily basis that we spend money for, we haven't been able to do that. And it also makes you realize how much you probably spend on useless things like buying a Starbucks coffee. Not that I bought Starbucks coffee, I don't. But, you know, like one coffee at Starbucks costs you like $5 or something for nothing special. Or you're off to Timmy's here in Canada, Timmy's, Tim Hortons, and you're getting your double-double, you know, that kind of thing on a daily basis. You know, you might be popping into McDonald's for McMuffin or something like that. It all adds up. It all adds up. Well, you know, I don't do those things. So instead, I put it into my little budgeted, earmarked budget for fabric. And I've amassed a nice tidy sum in there. So that gives me the opportunity to go in and not feel guilty, because that's what that money is for. And that's why I'm able to buy what I can. Like I said, I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination. However, I'm a really good budgeter. I can tell you that. I've been doing that since I was like 14 years old. So anyways, I thought I was going to be an accountant. Actually, it appealed to me to be an accountant. Then I discovered, no, I'd rather be a teacher, and never look back. Okay, so I want to, in this week's review of online fabric stores, I want to review Ultimate Sewing. And of course, you've heard me talk many, many times about them. Well, they recently put up an online store, and it's growing all the time, and it's getting better all the time. You have to expect that when something goes up online for the first time, it will have a few bugs that have to be worked out. And Shirley and her staff are working out the bugs. She does not have all of her fabric online, but she's got a fair amount of it. And her prices, first of all, let's talk about her prices. Fantastic. Now, when you go on, you will see what looks like really fantastic prices. Read the little statement she has at the beginning of her section on fabric. Because of the program she is using, I've asked her about this, for some reason, she can't put her prices up by the meter. They have to go up by the half meter. Now, she charges $15 a meter for most of her fabrics. There are a few specialty prints in that cost a little bit more, but the vast majority, I would say probably 90%, 95% of her fabrics are $15 a meter. You can't beat that price. Of course, these prices are all in Canadian dollars as well. And I'm using meters. So Americans, if you order online, you're going to get a fantastic bargain because one, the Canadian dollar sucks, so your American dollar is going to buy even more. So at $15 a meter Canadian, it's going to be what, $11 or $12 a meter American, and I'm estimating here. And on top of it all, a meter is 39 inches, so it's 3 inches more than a yard. So, you know, really, Americans, you're getting a deal on this. So you have to remember that when it comes up, when you click on it and it says 1, it means half a meter. So if you want a meter, you have to put in like 2, quantity for 2, and that'll get you a meter. She has notions up there as well, and she has a good selection. Again, she's always adding to those. Her prices on her notions are reasonable as well, and her shipping prices are pretty good as well. And she has those all laid out in her shipping section, so you can figure out what it's going to cost you. Again, I think her prices for American, I haven't really looked at those as closely, not being an American, but I think they're very reasonable as well. Now, the other thing about Shirley's online store and Shirley herself is that if you've got a question, if you've got a problem, Shirley will deal with it. Now, you just need to send her an email or you call the store, and she has her contact information all on the website, and she'll be more than happy to help you out. She is, in my opinion, an expert about sewing machines in general. She's been in the business for, I think, well over 40 years. So, you know, there's no flies on Shirley. She knows what she's talking about. So does her staff. Her staff are very well trained, very friendly people. I mean, that was the one thing when I first got into quilting, when I first time I walked into her store, I felt like I was among friends. They were warm, they were personable, and you know, I really do call them friends now. I mean, Ultimate Sewing, before COVID, was pretty much my second home in there, you know, for classes, for everything I wanted. I mean, if a week went by and I hadn't gone to the store twice, they thought I was sick, and they'd be calling all the hospitals in the area. Well, not really, I exaggerate, but you get the point. So, you know, if you've got questions. Now, you have to understand something though, too. When you send an email, and a lot of people get very impatient when they send emails to companies, and I get it. You're not going to get an answer within the first hour. You might. It may take a day or two because Shirley is inundated with emails. So it takes some time for that kind of thing. And Shirley likes to give you the personal touch. So it's most of the time, if an email is being answered from the store, it's being answered personally by Shirley as well. Sometimes you'll get some of the other staff, but most of the time it's Shirley herself. So, you know, give the lady a break on here, you know, let her catch up. And as I said, you can always call the store too, and the contact information is on her website. So I love the store. I have been to many, many quilt stores, both online and physically, over the time that I've been quilting. And she's the best in our area. There's no two ways about it. For service, for price, for friendliness, everything. She is the best. So go ahead, check out her website. I've got it in the show notes. And in fact, it's going to become a permanent fixture in my show notes because that's how much I believe in Shirley's store and in Shirley herself. And yeah, tell them I sent you. Won't get you any discount, but tell them I sent you. Okay, so what's that taking us to now? Okay, just oh yeah, my quilt critique of the week. This is a quilt I did relatively early in my quilting journey, and yeah, let's see what little things I can pick out on this week. So this week's quilt that I'm going to critique is this one made with chevrons. That's the up and down little pieces. And I really can't remember whether or not I took a class to do this in. I don't think it was. I think what this was, these were pieces left over from a class that I took, and I just put them together using my own design. I don't think it was a class, but then again, it could have been. I really honestly and truly don't remember. But anyways, let's take a closer look at this. From a distance, it looks pretty good. It's not a very big quilt. It's only probably about 36 inches by about 48. And well, let's get up a little closer and see what I've done here. Now, it's made up of half square triangles. And let's see my points. How did I do on my points on this one? Not too bad at all. Actually, I think I did a pretty good job because most of my points look pretty much all there and consistent. So I'm happy about that. So by this point, I guess I must have mastered half square triangles. Now I'm looking at my quilting and what I did here. And I didn't do a lot of quilting. And I'm noticing there's some wrinkles here, but that's from being hung up or folded up, I think. I can get those out with an iron if I so desire. But I'm looking here what I did, and I basically did something very simple. It looks like I used a variegated thread, and I just echoed each one of the chevrons. Now, that's okay. I don't think I did any stitch in the ditch anywhere. I didn't. So this one's a little under quilted, I would say. If I was to do this again, what I would do is, I think I would do the echo quilting again, but I think I would do 2 or 3 more lines around each one of those, maybe about 1/4 to 1/2 inch apart from each other. And I think that would fill it in very nicely. Now let's take a look at the binding here. My choice of fabric, I'll show you the back in a second. It looks pretty good because it picks up most of the colors that are in the quilt. How'd I do on the corners? Corners are still not perfect. Nope, I don't have that really nice 45-degree mitered. It's more like a fold over. So at this point, I still had not mastered doing that kind of thing. Let's move over to the other side here, and let's just take a look at the other corner. Yeah, at least if anything, I'm consistent. Now this one almost made it as a mitered corner, but you can see I was having trouble with the tension in my thread here. There's a little tiny thread nest sitting right up there. Don't like that. So let's turn it to the back and take a look. Okay, well, of course you can see some of the quilting, but again, this is where I would have liked to have done more quilting on this than I did. I'm pretty good at the back. I pretty much caught the binding all the way around, but the corners again back here, not looking so good. But you know, overall, it's not a bad looking quilt. Yeah, there's room for improvement. That's why I'm showing these to you, because I want to show you how I would improve those with what I know now that I didn't know then. But I think at the time, I was pretty proud of this. And yeah, it's kind of wrinkly. But that's just from being hung up. So anyways, that's my critique of my quilt for this week. So let's turn our attention to the upcoming retreat on March the 20th, the Idiot Quilter Retreat. As you know, we're sold out. I mean, it's free. Can you be sold out? But I can only handle 90 people, and I've got all 90. I have started a waiting list. I think you know that because I've mentioned it. And if you want to be on the waiting list, you just send me an email and tell me so, and I will add you to the list. The waiting list right now is a little bit lengthy. I think I have over 20 people on the waiting list. Now, yeah, we're playing the odds here. Okay, let's be honest about it. If you're number 20 on the list, your chances are slim of getting on, but never say never, you might. I have had one person cancel out, and she basically canceled out because she's in England, and she said, you know, like for her, they're 5 hours different. So I'm starting at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time. that would mean for her, that would be 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're running till 9 o'clock that night. So that would put her at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, might be a little late. Okay. And that's what she said. So that was fine. So, you know, I thanked her very much for letting me know. I appreciate that. And now I have been able to take the first person on the wait list is now registered into the day, into the event. And yeah, so we'll see. Now, I have sent out a message to all the people that are registered about the fact that I'm establishing a waiting list, and that I'd really appreciate if anybody that's on the registered list, if you know that you just can't make it for whatever reason, I mean, life happens, right? Please let me know as soon as you know. And really before March the 15th, that's 5 days before the retreat, because then I can, you know, fill in that spot with people on the waiting list. And even if it's the day before, I would still, you know, at least it still gives me an opportunity to get an email out to somebody on the waiting list and say, hey, look, last minute here, there's a spot that's opened up. What I'm afraid some people might do, and I'm sure they wouldn't do this intentionally, but I don't know all of you, so who knows, is it would be very disappointing that you didn't show up on the day of. Now, there will be a sign-in procedure for this, and I will be going over what that procedure is in a update memo that I'll send out or email to all the people that are registered. Essentially, you don't get on until I take attendance. I will have a waiting room, as they call it in Zoom, and when you come on, I'll see your name, I'll go down my list, I'll check your name off, and bang, you're in. Now, this presents one little problem. I'm not sure how I'm going to handle that right now. Well, I sort of have an idea. I'll just thinking out loud, I will formalize this in a bit of time soon. But I'm probably going to open at 8:30, meaning, you know, you can start to sign in at 8:30. The official start time is 9 o'clock, and that's fine. So I'm opening it up at about 8:30 just to get ahead of the rush, sort of a thing, to keep my own sanity. But some people may not be able to sign in between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. They might not be able to sign in until, say, 10 o'clock for one reason or another, especially the people out in Central and Mountain Time. Yeah, for you, it would be, if you were to sign in at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, BC is 3 hours behind us, so it would be, what, 6 o'clock in the morning. They may not want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, okay? And that's fine. So I will, you know, whatever time people get in. But what I'm thinking of doing is, if you're going to be signing in late, then maybe what I'll suggest is that you send me an email saying, hi, Steve, I'm coming. I just, you know, I'm going to sign in a little bit later. You know, say I'm going to sign in at noon your time or something like that. Okay, great, fine, no problem. I won't give up your spot. But I'm just thinking, I haven't formalized this yet. Just giving you sort of a heads up here of my thought process. If somebody doesn't sign up by, say, noon, our time, then I will feel that their spot is open. They can't come for some reason or other. And I'll send an email out to somebody on my waiting list and say, hey, well, if you want to come in and you're free now, it's open. You can do that. Maybe. I want to accommodate as many people as I possibly can. I feel bad that I can only get 90. I honestly did not expect to have the response that I have. And I want this to be very successful for everybody. So, you know, you'll have to excuse me. There's going to be some growing pains, but I'm really going to try to keep everything on an even keel as best I can, at least from your point of view. On my point of view, I may be going even grayer or starting to lose my hair over it. But that's okay. I have been approached as to say, am I going to have another one of these? Well, it depends on how this one works out. Yes, I might. There are some logistics I'd have to work out from that based on what I learned from this one. But yes, if this one is successful, then down the road, I don't know how far down the road, I would definitely think about doing another one. But let's get this one under our belt, shall we? Before then. So, if you're already registered, you will be getting some emails probably starting next week with little updates on various things about this, all intended to make the day fun and go along smoothly as best I can do that. Okay, so that's about it for me for this week. So I hope you have a good week. I hope you are able to get to your happy place and do some quilting, sewing, creating, whatever it is that makes you happy. I hope you stay safe as well. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.